We cannot say for certain that there was anything untoward or inappropriate that took place, but at the same time, it sounds like Andrew was going out to Peru in 2001, and in doing so was looking, for people to spend time with, specifically probably women to spend time with, and he was using Ghislaine Maxwell to try and procure women who he might spend time with.
As journalists all over the world, some lawyers too, I'm sure, trawl through the latest Epstein files release, emails by an A, allegedly from Balmoral, raise further questions about the extent of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's relationship with the late paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein and his associate Ghislaine Maxwell. Andrew has repeatedly denied all wrongdoing, but questions are being raised over the Invisible Man, a pen name used alongside a separate email address listed in Epstein's book as Duke of York. Dr Ed Owens is a royal historian and author of The Family Firm, Monarchy, Mass Media and the British Public. Thank you very much for joining us on Christmas Eve.
Good morning.
Is there any doubt that A from Balmoral is anyone other than Andrew Mountbatten Windsor?
It seems unlikely, but we have to assume that could very well be the case. It's you couldn't write this stuff with the name The Invisible Man as well. We have to assume that the communication that went out to Ghislaine Maxwell had to come from Andrew originally.
And The Invisible Man, what does that refer to?
It suggests that it's someone who doesn't want to be in the public eye, who's deeply concerned about his activities being made public. And we know from the communications that were sent to Ghislaine Maxwell about procuring, whether it's inappropriate friends or intelligent, pretty and fun women for this person, the Invisible Man, that they clearly wanted to be as discreet as possible in searching out potential partners.
Yeah, that phrase really upset me, to be honest. Intelligent, pretty and fun girls. It should be such a positive, from good families to boot. But when you know what the implied use or abuse of these young women allegedly was, it's really quite disturbing, isn't it?
It is deeply disconcerting. And of course, we can't say anything for certain here. But given the context here, given we know how troubling Andrew's connections to both Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were, reading with the grain, these allegations, these reports are deeply disconcerting.
There are references here to a specific trip to Peru. Does that change the dynamics? Does that make it harder for the general blanket denial of anything inappropriate to hold?
Well, we cannot say for certain that there was anything untoward or inappropriate that took place, but at the same time, it sounds like Andrew was going out to Peru in 2001, and in doing so was looking, for people to spend time with, specifically probably women to spend time with, and he was using Ghislaine Maxwell to try and procure women who he might spend time with.
Does any of this change the dynamics? Is it a bit of a case of flogging a dead horse now? Andrew has suffered, certain consequences for his association with Epstein. He's been stripped of his titles. He's having to move out of Royal Lodge. This is his last Christmas, apparently, in what has been his home for many, many years. Should we now maybe just kind of leave him alone?
Well, I think the King has absolutely been vindicated in having removed Andrew's titles back at the end of October. It was absolutely the right decision. It was a shame that it came almost 2 years too late, 2 years after the King took the throne. The monarchy was deeply damaged by this episode. I think continues to be damaged by the association with Andrew, even though he has been pushed as far to the margins as possible. It remains to be seen how lasting this damage will be. And I'm sure, at Buckingham Palace this Christmas, they will be hoping very much that there aren't many more reports of this kind to emerge from the Epstein files.
Looking more broadly at the release, just with the skills that you have as a historian, is it a nightmare to have these, drip, bits, well, a whole dump of material, but chunks at a time, with a lot of it redacted? How hard is it to piece together something that is credible, that is convincing, that is accurate, even for you as a historian, from the way all this is emerging?
Well, it's impossible to say as of today, I would suggest. I think it would be much easier for the historians 50 years from now to be able to look back on this moment and to work out, just how damaging these releases were, because they will have a much fuller picture of exactly what was released and when. And, I think 50 years from now, historians will also be asking the question, depending on the likely future of the monarchy, was this when the rots sort of set in, and this was a moment, where the monarchy wasn't able to recover its reputation owing to the association with Jeffrey Epstein, or was this a moment of reinvention as well? Was this a moment that the monarchy sought to recover from by embracing a program of change, by doing things differently? And I think those are interesting questions that the historians of the future will be looking at.
There is a striking contrast when you look at two brothers, if you like, between the good news that the king himself has had recently about his own health and the relentlessly bad news about his brother that's, still dripping out and has been doing so all year. How do you think he will reflect the sort of rough and the smooth, if you like, the good and the bad and the ugly in his Christmas message?
We know that the Christmas message will be coming to us from Westminster Abbey this year, and we can imagine that the king will make reference to all the support, all the help that he's got with his cancer treatment, and I think we can all celebrate the good news that King Charles is hopefully on the mend and responding positively to his cancer treatment. This has been a particularly difficult year for King Charles, yet another difficult year, really, since the beginning of his reign. But I think this the gravest so far. Of course, it does end on an optimistic note personally for him, looking to the future, hopefully with better health. And hopefully, he will have put the Andrew saga behind him. And as I say, it just depends what more information is to come out of these files, either related to Andrew or indeed to other high-profile figures. Because I think it's significant, just to finish, that Andrew has received a great deal of attention through the reporting. A number of other associates of Jeffrey Epstein are yet to receive the same level of scrutiny. And I think in that respect, the British press, the British media has really excelled itself in shining this kind of scrutiny on the figure of Andrew.
Dr. Ed Owens, thank you very much for joining us, looking back and looking ahead to the King's message there as well. It's been a very mixed year, hasn't it? Relentlessly bad in some ways, and yet, that optimistic note that Ed was referring to, that, trumps all else.
What I thought was most interesting is that Ed has identified this moment as being a sort of pivot point for the royal family. And will history tell us that this was the moment that the King, having already taken a very decisive approach then earlier in this year, and I'm sure is now breathing a huge sigh of relief that he had done, to strip Andrew, his brother, of all these titles? Or is it going to be the sort of identifiable start of the rot, where the royal family are so badly damaged by the association, even though that they've distanced themselves from him, that it becomes unrecoverable? Because the King does have this chance to pivot. It's whether he can do it and bring the public with him.
Yeah, and, that makes a lot of sense. And I keep thinking with Andrew, there are some, I think, who probably sense, look, we know what he was associated with, let's say. He's paid a certain price for that, and let's just move on. And those who think, we haven't even started, because if he hadn't been a member of the royal family, there would be a completely different conversation about what happened next. And the more detail we get, the more the pressure surely grows for, proper investigations into these allegations.